Hello everyone. We are here today to talk a little bit about Portugal martial art Jogo Do Pau and we hope you'll enjoy this video. So let's start. As we know, human beings have always had to fight to survive and they have always employed tools. In a variety of different societies, treating the sword as a weapon has been a privilege of the royals and warriors. Common people did not have access to such weaponry. So they had to find some alternative ways, such as hand to hand combat or using common tools. So the simple stick was almost certainly among the first tools to be turned to martial purposes as an instrument of attack and defense against animals. As societies evolved from the nomadic herding and food gathering stage, conflicts arose. Competition over resources, etc., boiled over into personal combat, and people created series of specific movements, attacks, and defenses with their utilitarian sticks. The specific nature of these actions depended on geographic conditions as well as cultural and other factors. This new fighting technique varied not only by country but also by the length of the stick or staff most commonly employed. In Portugal, one very rich technique was developed, adapted to a type of wood known as o varapau or kashadu. It's a large stick 2 meters in length that is heavier and thicker at one end. The staff grants the user a large attack range with a circular fluid technique that delivers strikes at high impact, capable of breaking bone or defending against edged weapons. Aside from offensive moves, fighter trains against blows while laying on the ground and while seated from single and multiple opponents. There is no conclusive evidence that Jogo Do Pau technique were used in battle, but in the 14th century, the Uvarapau was held valiantly by Portuguese hands against the steel swords of the Spanish in the Battle of Aljubarrota. Against overwhelming odds, the Portuguese kingdom won the fight with an army composed mainly of peasants wielding large sticks through superior techniques. As with the development of staff weapons in other countries, the POW was also part of the normal equipment of the field worker, used as a walking stick or hiking staff and as an elementary weapon of self-defense itself against the aggression of people and animals. The popularity of this martial art was partly due to the demeanor of the northern folk, who valued personal and family honor enough to kill for it. It was also due in no small part to the relative ease of obtaining a staff as well as the versatility of such a tool. A staff or stick was almost universally present. For example, in the north of Portugal, all over Mina, the staff was used by young men patrolling their lands, by travelers, and by shepherds in the mountain ranges. Every boy felt himself to be a young man when he could fight with a stick and went with his friends on patrol. It was considered as fine a thing as being a knight armed for battle. The stick was efficiently beyond any doubt. When played well, it conferred great advantages to its wielder in a fight. Some stick fights have become part of northern Portuguese folklore. The Jogo do Pai was therefore an integral part of life in northern Portugal. Throughout the country, there existed schools where groups of eager youngsters came to learn from old masters who were well paid for their lessons. It was considered proper for parents to send children to these masters so that they learned this discipline as part of their education. Such was the esteem given to Jogo do Pau at that time. The most professional Jogo do Pau master was Joaquim Bau, who rode a mule across Portugal, living only on donations exchanged for the lessons he gave. Now, Shalu will be talking about Jogo do Pau techniques and its current status.
Now let's talk about the techniques. So, Jogo Do Pau are 3 training exercises, Sarilos, Formas and Series. These 3 techniques are very similar to the one used in majority of Oriental martial arts called Kata, which is similar manipulation of movement sequences used in imaginary fight. A lot of beginners confuse these three training approaches, since the division of exercises in Jogo Do Pau can be easily overlooked, since they are taught simultaneously. The duels could take the form of one against one clashes or one against many. They had to honor the ethic code, which prohibited fighting with a lying man or a man without his staff. And now I will talk about all three training exercises one by one. So the first one is Sarilos. In Sarilos, the previously determined sequence of defense movements used in a specific situation. The exercises not only improve the trainees' fighting techniques but also their endurance and body coordination. The advantage of this training method is being able to do it alone. And the second one is formas. In formas, sequence of attack and defense movements mixed together designed for fighting multiple opponents at once. Formas are very often trained in coordinated groups, which creates a visually pleasing effect and are used for demonstration. And the last one is series. It was part of traditional training of the old masters, which combines two of the previous exercises. It is the most complex form of Jogo Do Pau training, and it requires coordination and experiences. Hence, it was usually practiced one-to-one, master to student. But nowadays, the most common approach is a classroom model, masters to several students. But it is possible to practice it one-to-one. Still, most of the training is done in its traditional form, wooden stuff and no protection, with the objective of creating combat ready athletes. Now let's see the current status of Jogo Do Pau. Jogo Do Pau is practiced in Portugal, Azores and Madeira and outside Portugal. There are some Jogo Do Pau study groups around the world like Australia, USA, Sweden and Belgium. But they all started in 21st century or late 20th century. In Lisbon, since 21st century, Jogo Do Pau has been practiced in an unconventional way, developed on the street of the capital city or clubs such as Ateneu Commercial de Lisboa or Real Gymnasium, where Jogo Do Pau is still being practiced. Two great schools were established. Their techniques, history and social principles varied, like Escola do Norte and Escola de Lisboa. And the master Pedro Ferreira became very important person for the technical development and history of Jogo Do Pau by fusing Escola do Norte and Escola de Lisboa. A lot of contemporary teachers had been his students in the past. He gave Jogo Do Pau the image of the art that is being practiced one's whole life and has been considered to be one of the greatest masters of Jogo Do Pau. Nowadays, Jogo Do Pau is not as popular as it used to be in the past. Since 1930s, Jogo Do Pau started to diminish in popularity due to the variety of different reasons, such as police prohibition of staff use in order to avoid serious injuries or even casualties, as well as the spread of firearms, which made a time-consuming and difficult to master technique less beneficial. Despite all these reasons, Jogo Do Pau is still being practiced today, and thanks to the groups such as Esgrima Luciana Casquias, Jogo Do Pau Association. Obrigado.